And let me pull up my slides. Unfortunately, we have to do slides in this new era of, yay, people. I see people. Yay. I miss seeing people. I miss seeing my students. This is just, that's not an easy thing to be just in my house. All right, so here we go, or in my apartment rather. All right, let me share this so you don't just see my big old face. Because I don't have the best camera, unfortunately. I can't even use the green screen thing, like the background. I can't even use that. All right, let's make this big. Okay. All right, so I am recording this for students who can't, hold on. So again, if you're new to WebEx, no problem. It's a very simple platform. Maybe you use something similar like Zoom. You can't hear, okay, so you can't hear anything. Can other students hear me? There's a chat box that you, or you can just unmute to tell me, okay, other students can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So there's a few, if you cannot, so let me, I guess I should type this. Where's my chat box? Chat box. Okay, if you cannot hear me, you may need to adjust your settings or refresh and re-enter. Oops, the virtual classroom. Great. Yeah, so there's going to be some troubleshooting issues like dealing with this because there you go. Yeah, please help your fellow students. That's awesome. Yeah, so like I said, we're going to have some troubleshooting issues as we work through this. But as I mentioned in the Blackboard page, and I'm already recording right now, I am going to record all of these and they'll be posted onto YouTube after I finish processing them after our session. So if you do experience technical difficulties, please don't worry about that. The recordings will be on Blackboard. So yes, so let's, 6:06. So let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to Basic Plant Science Lab, although lab is kind of not exactly the same as it used to be when we would meet in the classroom. I know all of you are so excited to be doing plants, right? That was like your whole thing this summer. You were like, I can't wait to do a plant class because I love plants and I can't wait to learn more about them. No, I know the case is that you all have different majors and you are and I will post the lecture slides on Blackboard as well. Yeah, but I know you all are in different majors, and the last thing you are probably wanting to do is spending your summer learning about plants. I get it, but don't worry. I'm going to try to make it as fun as possible. And when you start to feel frustrated, just remember at least it's not physics, right? At least it's not chemistry. So yes, it's science, but it's hopefully a science that you can apply to your day-to-day life. We'll learn some stuff that you guys can use just in your day-to-day life to make your place have more plants. I'm Dr. Rebecca Pico. Actually, just became Dr. Rebecca Pico. I defended my PhD in April during this whole thing. It was actually a virtual defense. So very recently, Dr. Rebecca Pico, but I've been, thank you. Yes, it was quite a challenge to finish. Oh, sorry. Oh, congratulations. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was quite a challenge to do during this time. Yes, but I was lucky enough to finish everything on time and have my virtual defense. But even though I'm a new doctor, I have been TAing this class for years, since 2014. I also lecture a plant class for bio majors, which I've done for the last 3 years. So I am a new doctor, but I am not new to this class, so you're in good hands. Okay, let's move forward. Can everyone see the lecture slide? Yay, okay, people can see it. Great. This is my email address. If you have any questions at any time, or if there's anything that you guys need from me, don't hesitate to email me. Happy to answer any questions. I'm also pretty good at a turnaround time and getting back to you within 24 hours, except maybe on weekends, although nowadays it's kind of like, what day is it anyways? So let's move forward. So this is basic plant science, right? So this is a plant. All right, guys, thank you very much. It was a great class. No, just kidding. Yeah, it's a little more complicated than that, right? This is basic plant science, but it's like not that basic. So before I get into basic plant science, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I've been studying plants for the last like 20 years, give or take, since I was a little kid. I've done my PhD at Rutgers, Newark, and New Jersey Institute of Technology. We have a federated department. I live in Brooklyn, New York. I've lived in Brooklyn, New York for the last 16 years. And yeah, welcome NJIT. Welcome Rutgers students too. But yeah, so I love living in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah, Brooklyn. And yeah, I used to actually commute to Newark to do my whole PhD and to do all these teachings and things. So it was quite a lot of commuting, but I love the diversity of Brooklyn. I really love Brooklyn. I'm originally from New York when I was a little kid, so moving back here was important to me when I was old enough to move back. Yeah, and so I've done a lot of different types of work. My PhD stuff focused on plant evolution inside of urban areas. Like I said, I live in Brooklyn, and so studying plants in urban areas is really important to me. You don't have to go to the jungle. You don't have to go to the Caribbean. You don't have to go to Micronesia or Africa to study plants. You can study plants right in the city, right in Newark, right in New York City. Yeah, plants are everywhere. So that's one nice thing about them is you can study them anywhere. So why plants? Who cares, right? Who cares about plants? They're green. They're around me. I don't even look at them. I don't even notice them, right? Who cares about plants? Well, plants are important. Even in urban areas, plants are really important. So some of the things they do are they improve air quality for us. They help mitigate noise, so reduce noise from like busy streets. They support the biodiversity of other taxa, which is a really fancy way of just saying they help other organisms live. Yes, nature is wonderful. Even in our cities, we have wonderful nature. Other things they do is they help prevent erosion. They provide cooling effects. And they also play a pivotal role in nutrient cycling. So they help nutrients move through the environment. So before I get started with today's work, I'm going to give you kind of an overview. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the syllabus, which is available on Blackboard now in the syllabus folder. I'm going to give you kind of a little introduction to why plants are important even beyond inside of urban areas. And then what we would normally do is I would walk you around campus to show you trees that are common on the campuses of Rutgers, Newark, and NJIT. But today I'm going to do that kind of in a virtual format. Not as fun in my opinion, but not as arduous, not as much walking, etc. What I would recommend that you guys do so that you don't have to rewatch these lectures is that, and for what it's worth, so someone's like, oh man, like I would like to walk around. Well, I will provide a map of where these trees are located, or at least some of them are located. So when quarantine's lifted, you can go visit them if you'd like. These are also trees that are, depending on where you live, probably pretty common. These are very common trees in our area, whether you're in New York or New Jersey or even Pennsylvania, very common in the Northeast. What I would recommend the way that you would approach these classes is that so the lab manual, you don't have to purchase any additional lab manual. We provide you the lab manual for free on the Blackboard page. So the lab manuals for labs 1 and 2 are already available on Blackboard. And what I would recommend is that you pull those up or you download those. If you have the ability to print it, great. If you don't have the ability to print it, that's okay. Just download a copy. And while I give the talk, I would recommend that you make some notes. And the reason I recommend that is even though the lecture slides will be available, and the recordings will be available, you don't necessarily want to sit through a whole recording of this again, right? If you've already watched it once live. So take notes, and the notes will help you do the assignments, which we will talk about a little bit more as we go forward here. And we'll also learn some kind of introductory terms to plants, for example, monoecious and dioecious. Do not get worried about the scary long words. We will walk through them. Okay. So I'm not going to go through the entire syllabus, but I will hit some key notes about some of the important things. So for example, this is my email address again, and feel free to email me at any time. I am also happy to meet for office hours by appointment. So if you want to do a one-on-one WebEx to talk about some of the material, totally happy to do that. We just got to set it up. All the material for the course is available on Blackboard. This is the link for the virtual classroom meetings. So this is about attendance and makeups and etc. So it's a weird, this syllabus is mostly boilerplate from when this was an in-person class. I do still want to take attendance into account because I'll use attendance to help boost your grade. However, we're in this new weird, unique situation, and sometimes people have other obligations during the 6 o'clock time on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which I totally understand. Sometimes people might have technical difficulties where they can't log on to the live lecture. Totally fine. I will take attendance in some shape or form. It's not going to be perfect, meaning on my end, it's not going to be perfect. It'll be in your favor. But what I will do is at the end of these lectures that are live, I'm going to pull down the participant list of people who at least logged in. And then for the recorded lectures, I'm able to see who views those as well. So that's the way I'm planning on taking attendance. Don't worry about attendance negatively impacting your grade if you are attending these sessions and if you are watching the recordings. I want to use it to help boost your grade, right? So it's not meant to be a detriment to you. What else? But this is a summer course. It moves so fast. So we have to cover a lot of material in a very short period of time. That I can't control because of the nature of summer courses. If you are dealing with some sort of illness or other things going on like that, some emergency, and you have an extended period of time where you're not able to attend the classes, please let me know, but also provide me documentation. Right, so here's a question. Professor, I emailed you about this, but what if we have an exam on the same day as your exam because I have a class from 6 to 9 at the same time as this and the exam is on the same day? So what I'm probably going to do, so right now the way I have the assignments set up is that they're open for an extended block of time, meaning, for example, the first assignment will be open for you to attempt starting this evening after this class, and it will be open until 6 p.m. on Thursday. You could do that assignment at any time between those times, but you can only attempt the assignment one time, right? And so that's how the exams, I think, are also going to run. I'll have a block of time that the exam will be available, meaning like a day or so that the exam is available, and you will only be able to attempt it one time, but you won't have to take the exam during, say, this 6 to 9 block. Okay, let's move on. Oh, and also if you are just joining us, you need to mute your microphone. So if you go to the bottom of your screen, there is a symbol on the bottom that looks like a microphone slashed out. You need to click that so you can mute, so I don't hear you saying any bad things about me. Just kidding. No, but just because, I don't want to hear your business. All right, so here's how the grades will be in the class, right? There isn't any minuses or anything like that. It's just, letter grades and pluses. So this is what it looks like. And this is how I'll determine your grade for the class. It'll be based on 2 exams, which are each worth 20% of the course, and then assignments, which collectively are worth 50% of the course. So even though you might be like, oh my God, like as we go on, you're going to be like, oh my God, why is she making us do so many assignments? Well, because the assignments are going to help you learn the material and not slack. but also I'm using 50% of your course grade is based on these assignments, which are easy homework assignments. So that's why. Oh, right. And then attendance, like I said, it's an attempt to boost your grade for a total of 100%, right? So assignments, you want to make sure you do those assignments. You want to make sure you turn in those assignments on time. If you turn in an assignment late, it will automatically drop a letter grade. And if you submit an assignment 2 days after the due date, it won't receive any credit. That's because it takes me time to grade the assignments. It takes me time to create the assignments and all of this content on Blackboard. And so I have a certain amount of time that I can allot to grading assignments and checking them. It's also because of just the nature of this course. Things move very, very, very quickly. So we have to be on the ball. Okay. There are no makeup exams for the lab, but again, it's going to be in like a block format. So that shouldn't be any problem, I don't think. Oh yeah. And like I'm super nice and I'm a real person. Like I'm not like unrealistic person, but like please just work now. Please don't come to me at the end of the semester being like, how can I raise my grade? I make this course very easy for everyone to get a good grade. So just start working now and you'll have no problem at all. Again, if you're just joining us, you want to make sure to mute your microphone. It's fine to keep your camera on if you'd like, but you want to be, so there's on the bottom, there's something that looks like a microphone with a line through it. You want to click that. So here's an overview of the syllabus. Today we're going to talk about, like I said, the lab, but also trees that are found commonly on campus. But this is just to show you this is it. I mean, this is the entire semester for us. It's a very short window of time to get a lot of stuff done. Luckily, I've worked with the lecturer before, and there should be a lot of overlap with the concepts. But if you're not taking the lecture course and only taking the lab course, that's fine too. I will provide you all the information you need here. So this is just so you get a handle on what the assignments will be. Again, these assignments are not meant to be difficult. These assignments should be able to be completed in about 15 minutes, but you'll have an hour once you begin the assignment. They come directly from the lecture material. And if you take notes and stuff during the lectures, but again, you could watch them again and the slides will be available. So just giving you an idea, there will be an assignment for every lab so that I could help you guys get a good grade in this class and it's not reliant on exams. So the first assignment is due this Thursday by 6 p.m. And it'll be available on Blackboard once this class is over tonight. Okay, yeah, so don't get sad about assignments. They are really for your benefit. I used to teach this class years ago and I didn't have any assignments and I only had exams and people did horribly. So I've learned over the years that students don't want to learn the material unless they have to. So the way that I make students go through the material slowly instead of trying to cram it is by having assignments. And when I've done that, students have really gotten great grades. Okay. Don't cheat. Don't plagiarize. You know the drill with that. The rest of the syllabus is available on Blackboard. So are you able to view the assignments before attempting? You are not. So once you open an assignment, it will be your time to attempt the assignment. But again, the assignments come directly from the lecture slides. And if you are paying attention and taking notes, they should only take you about 15 minutes. But you will have up to an hour once you open the assignment to complete it. Okay. Yeah, and so mark your calendars with all the dates of the Blackboard assignments and whatnot and exams. Okay, so that's all the housekeeping type of stuff. Now let's get into plants, right? That's why we're here. Let's talk about plants. So why are plants important? Why do we even care about plants? Why is there even a class like that teaches about plants? And these are some of the reasons why plants are important. So one thing is that they provide carbon fixation for the entire biosphere. And you're like, well, I don't know what any of those words mean, Rebecca. So what that means is that plants can take CO2 gas out of the atmosphere and use, if you look at this little schematic on the left, on bottom left, right? So you have a sun shining on the plant. if the plant has sunshine shining on it and the plant has water, it's able to take carbon dioxide out of the air and turn that carbon dioxide into sugar that the plant uses. And we and other animals in turn then eat the plant or parts of the plant and get that material as nutrition for us. So plants are the basis of the whole terrestrial food chain as we know it on Earth. Another reason that plants are important is because they produce oxygen that we breathe. So when they do this process of turning CO2 gas into sugar using the sun and water, one of the waste products of that process is oxygen, and we actually breathe the oxygen. The oxygen that we're breathing is in basically most part because of plants. Those are some of the reasons they're important. As I mentioned, plants are the basis of the terrestrial food chain. Terrestrial just means on Earth, not in the water. It just means like on Earth, on the ground, land. And so humans in particular have really used plants to build civilization. So we wouldn't have civilizations as we know it were it not for the domestication of plants. And so there were multiple events. This map shows you some of the events of humans domesticating plants to be able to cultivate them to eat. And we'll highlight a few here. 3 of the staples of civilization, rice, wheat, and corn, all come from grasses. And so people who were able to learn how to grow rice, corn, and wheat in large quantities and save the products over winter were able to stay put in a certain place and build civilizations. So plants are really important in that regard. Another way that plants are important is we use them for fuel. So maybe you've just burned wood before to keep warm. My parents, for example, they live in Connecticut and they have a wood stove and they pretty much heat their house using wood that they burn. But you might not even think about this, but fossil fuels, so coal, oil, and natural gas, are actually the products of ancient plants dying and being put underground. So you can see this schematic on the bottom left. You have an ancient forest here. I can actually annotate. Fair warning, I am pretty horrible at drawing, especially on this computer with this mouse pad. So fair warning. I like to annotate, but I am not that good at it. So here, look, this is an old forest, right? And over time, it died, and the plant material would have ended up in layers kind of underground. And over time, with a lot of pressure, so you see here time and pressure and heat, you end up with fossil fuel, which is, in this example, coal. So a lot of times I think people think of fossil fuels as being like the dinosaurs or something, but no, fossil fuels in most part are actually from old plants that have been gone through this process over evolutionary time, a long geological time. And then, of course, we have also been able to use plants to make certain types of gas in the form of biodiesel. So plants are important to people because we use them for food and they have allowed us to build civilizations. It's one reason. And then also plants are important to people because we use it for fuel. Right? Okay. Another reason why plants are important to people is because we use them to build shelters. So even in, so-called industrialized civilizations, we still use lumber and wood to build structures, but we also use plants for a lot of different materials, right? It's shelters, shelter for humans, but also clothing and even paper we get from plants. So you are using plants every single day if you're wearing a cotton shirt or your house has wood in it, or you used paper today, although we're using paper less and less, or you drove your car using fossil fuels. You've used plants and you didn't even know about it. So plants are very important. Another way that plants are important to humans is that we use them for medicine. So this is one example of using plants for medicine. This plant, which is called the cinchona tree, or the quinine tree, is used to produce quinine, which is actually an anti-fever agent that prevents and helps treat malaria. So this is just one example of using plants for medicine. And then this other example with the Madagascar periwinkle, this is used as a form of cancer treatment. Different compounds that come from this plant we use for cancer treatment. So how are plants important, right? Here's a nice summary slide. They're able to take CO2 gas out of the atmosphere and make sugar. We and other animals, all the animals on Earth, rely on them as food. They provide us oxygen to breathe. We were able to create human civilizations because of the domestication of plants. We use them for fuel. We use them for shelter and other goods. And we use them for medicine and more. So you probably didn't even think about it, but yes, we rely very heavily on plants, more than we think about on the day-to-day. Okay. So the plant kingdom is big. There's a lot of species of plants. To date, there's close to 400,000 known plant species. Well, don't worry, we're not going to learn them all in this class. Not even close. But it's good for you to be aware of how many there actually are. And there's different types of plants, but the majority of plants are in what we call the flowering plants, in that they produce flowers. But believe it or not, there's plants that don't produce flowers too, and they comprise the other 6% of the plant kingdom. And every single year, we discover new species of plants, believe it or not. And in addition to discovering new plants, unfortunately, we're also losing a lot of plants every single year due to human activities. So we are in what we call, biologists call, the Anthropocene. Pocene refers to like a period of time. So we're in the human period of time because humans haven't been around all that long. And basically, don't know what this is. No.
I'm sorry, that was a mistake.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out how to comment.
Oh, so if you go to the bottom, there are what are called widgets. They're kind of like circle-y things. And one of them is a little chat bubble. And that should pull up the chat. Here, hold on.
I think I just can't because I'm using mobile. I'm on my iPad. Okay.
I think you should. Well, so do you have a question? Since, I mean, I could hear you.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, should we be trying to memorize the statistics?
No, it's okay. Like in terms of 2,000 plants discovered a year or that kind of stuff. No, I'm just trying to give you more of a real quick and dirty version of like why plants are important and how we're affecting plants. But no, that is not. It's important to know why plants are important to humans, but you don't need to know, for example, that there's 390,000 plants. That I just want you to get an idea about how many, right? Because there's only one species of human, but there's almost 400,000 species of plants, which is like, whoa. All right. But good question.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry for interrupting.
It's fine. And if anyone has any questions at any time, either feel free to do it in the chat box, or if you're using a device that you can't find the chat box, feel free to just speak out too. That's totally fine. Yeah. So we're basically having a time right now due to human activity that we're having what we refer to as like the sixth mass extinction. We're losing a lot of species of organisms, not just plants. We have the highest extinction rate since the last extinction event, which was with the dinosaurs. And basically there was a big study that found that 68% of plants out of the 13,000 that they looked at were threatened with extinction. And part of the reason that is again, some of the reason is because of human activities. Actually, a lot of the reason is because of human activities. And these activities include habitat loss. So as cities expand in size, but also as new areas that never were a city become a city, we remove plants from there to be able to build our buildings and whatnot and build roads. And this creates what's called habitat loss. Another way that humans are threatening plant species is because of the introduction of what are called invasive species. So invasive species are those that are really, really good at expanding very rapidly and taking over resources in a given location. Invasive species could be from the region that you're in, or they could be from a different region. The invasive part refers to how they're able to grow and like take over land. So because humans move around the world so much via planes and cars and boats to move goods and things like that, and trains, we actually accidentally vector a lot, or move. Vector means move a lot of invasive species without even knowing it, and then they can become a problem and take over other species. And then climate change is another example with shifting climate patterns. So just to give you an idea of habitat loss, this is a picture from Istanbul, Turkey, where there's been a lot of rapid urban development. This is over a 10-year period, and you can see how drastically an area can change in even a 10-year period. But if you've been in New York City or the surrounding area, or Newark or surrounding parts of Jersey, I mean, you see how urban expansion can occur and take over land. Okay, so plants need our help. It's important that we appreciate plants. It's important that we advocate for. So I have a question. So some plants are meant to be just where they are and not be moved. No, that's not really what I mean. What I mean is that there's some plants that are very, very good at competing against other plant species. And so maybe where they originally are, or without our disturbance, they might be held in check by other things. So for example, you might have a very invasive plant species and it lives in an area where fire happens regularly, right? Like it's a natural part of the ecosystem, like parts of New Jersey used to have a lot of regular wildfires. And maybe those wildfires would like keep those invasive plants in check. But now with, if we prevent the wildfires from happening, those species might be able to overtake areas in ways that they weren't able to before. But sometimes if we accidentally move plants, so that's why there's like rules about sometimes moving plants from one location to another location, because some plants are just really good at taking over areas. And I don't know if any of you have seen like Japanese knotweed or other very common weed species where they just take over the whole land. Yeah. So I have another question. Vectoring contributes to invasive species in urban developments and creates an imbalance in local flora. It can. So if for example, people in urban areas, let's say Home Depot is selling a plant that happens to be invasive and nobody's regulating that. And it happens to be very pretty. And so people go to Home Depot and they're like, oh, I want to put that in my garden. And then you put it in your garden. That could be a way where, oops, now you have introduced this invasive species into the area. Yeah. But it could be done in a way where we don't even know it, right? Like we can drive over seeds, for example, that might get stuck to our tires. And then when we park wherever we're going, oops, now we just brought a bunch of seeds there. So it's often done not maliciously. It's often done just kind of by accident because humans move around the world so much. Yes, so it's important to appreciate plants and it's important to advocate for sustainable practices and conservation efforts. So that's my like soapbox moment, and I won't have any more of those really, but I just want to make that point clear because I am a plant biologist and I have to think about these things. Okay. Whew, all right, so much information. Take a breather for a second. I'm going to drink my tea. Right. Yeah, so far we've covered why plants are important. We've covered what are happening with plants in the world, right? And because of human activity. And now we're going to talk about plants, just plants. So this is the plant kingdom, okay? You heard me say plant kingdom before. I know you guys are not biology majors, but you might have heard the word like animal kingdom before, so like humans are part of the animal kingdom. So there's other kingdoms too. For example, the plant kingdom. And this is what the plant kingdom looks like if you were to look at it kind of organized. So I'll annotate, which I'm so good at. So good at annotating. Nope. Right. So here's your plant kingdom. And in the plant kingdom, there are parts, right? There's the non-vascular plants, which are made up of the mosses, liverworts, and hornworts. There's vascular plants, which we'll learn about later. And inside of the vascular plants, there are seed plants and spore plants. And inside of the seed plants, there are what are called angiosperms and gymnosperms. So we will cover the plant kingdom in detail toward the end of the semester. But I just want to give you kind of an idea in your brain about what players you might encounter if you're studying plants. And now I want to kind of explain to you how we describe plants, as it were, like how we can talk about plants. So I like to give this example because it kind of relates it to ourselves, to humans. So if you're a biologist, you have to be able to discuss a particular organism with detail, right? Like, so if you're making a medicine, you don't want to just say, oh yeah, you use that like green stripy plant and that's how you make that medicine. No, you don't want to do that. You want to be able to be very specific. And so because of that, we have this organization tool, which is called taxonomy. And it's how we actually name organisms. So remember, plant kingdom, right? So look, here you have domain, and then right under that, kingdom. That's where the kingdom part comes from. So you don't have to, this is not for you to memorize, this is for you to be able to relate to what I'm actually talking about. So this is an example with human beings, Homo sapiens. So as I said, Homo sapiens are human beings. We are in the animal kingdom, right? So if you see here, kingdom, right? Kingdom, Animalia, right? We are in the animal kingdom. And you can use taxonomy to properly name a human. And if you go through all of the different parts, right? We're in the order primates. We're in the genus Homo. And human being species is Homo sapiens. If you're a human being, you are a Homo sapiens. You are all in the same species. I'm just showing you this because this is maybe more digestible than thinking about it with plants, right? Right. So one thing I should point out here, phylum is the singular. If you want to say many of those, you say phyla. So in your lab material, you might see the word phyla. It just means the plural of phylum. And likewise, genera is how you say the plural of genus. So again, these slides will be available on Blackboard. So we just talked about Homo sapiens, right? We're all Homo sapiens. So now let's give an example with a plant. So as I mentioned, plants are in the kingdom Plantae, or the plant kingdom, right? And a lot of times you might see a family name. See, I'm horrible at drawing straight lines. But again, you don't have to memorize this order. I'm just showing you how we organize plants. But this plant species, so humans are Homo sapiens, right? This plant is in this genus, and this is its species name. So like we're Homo sapiens, and this is Catharanthus roseus, right? Again, you don't have, don't drive and annotate. But yeah, so just to show you, like, because as we go forward in the class, you're going to see species names of plants, and I don't want you to be like, well, why are we even calling it that? This is why we're calling it that. And remember, this plant example is one of the ones that we use to make medicines for cancer, right? So if you're making a cancer medicine, you want to really make sure that if you're telling a colleague in another country, hey, we're using this Madagascar periwinkle, they might call something else Madagascar periwinkle. So you want to be really clear and say, no, we are using the Catharanthus roseus as a cancer treatment. And then there's no confusion and the medicine will be made properly. This guy is the guy who did this Like, right, some old white dude from 1700s, because that's like what science was for so long. Luckily now a lot of women are, are real. But anyways, we still got to give him props. His name's Carl Linnaeus. He is the person who's responsible for this naming system, right? He's a Swedish botanist, zoologist and physician. And he's the guy who actually created this whole system, and it's called binomial nomenclature. Now, again, I don't want you to be like, these are scary big words. They aren't really that scary if you know what they mean. So see how it says here, each species has a unique name that consists of two parts, right? So remember, like Homo sapiens, two parts, right? Two parts. So Homo sapiens, whoops, horrible at annotating. But the point is, I want to point out this word, right? Oh, if I can do it. Yes. Binomial nomenclature. Okay. Bi means two. Nomial means name. And nomenclature means, so nomen means name as well, and clature means kind of like an organization. So the word binomial nomenclature, it says two name naming system. That's literally what it says. Binomial, two name, nomen, naming, system, clature. So binomial nomenclature, don't get scared. Words are only scary if we don't know what they mean. Oh yeah, that's fine. You can take notes here. It's fine. Just remember you copy paste them after or something, because they will go away. Once for the record, when I post the recordings, the chat box won't be active. That's part of the reason why I actually read the questions when people write them in the chat box, because they won't be available later. So for Diane, your note is taxonomy.
Yeah, because I wrote it on the notes, and as I was listening to you and looking at your slide, I hit enter, and I didn't realize that it was.
No worries. No worries. Well, now you know, right? Your notes are taxonomy.
Oh, why is it here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So I think I'm out of note. I think I'm out of annotate. Yeah. So anyways, this is the guy who did it, right? Carl Linnaeus. And this is what I was just saying with trying to draw, which I'm horrible at, is you have that two name naming system, right? Binomial nomenclature, two name naming system. And the two names are the genus and what's called the specific epithet. So in the case of humans and the plant species we just looked at, the genus, right, is the first part. Homo in terms of humans, and then Catharanthus in the terms of the plant that we saw that treats cancer. And then the second part of the binomial nomenclature, right, two name naming system, the second part is that second word, right? So Homo sapiens, two parts. When we encounter other plant species going forward, they're going to always have two parts, right? That's why I go into this, because otherwise, if you're looking at the lab material and you're trying to figure it all out, it's kind of like you're seeing these big scary words that are trying to identify plants, and they're not meant to be big and scary, but they can seem big and scary. But the point is that they're the species names. Cool. All right. So that covers the main part of kind of the intro. And now we're going to, if we were in regular class, what we would do now is everyone grab their stuff and we would head out into the field. And hopefully it wouldn't be raining and cold and stuff like that, because in the past sometimes it has been. So that's one good thing, although today's nice. Okay, so we're gonna pretend like we're heading out to look at the plants found around campus. Oh yeah, and so just to let you know, so the plants that we're gonna look at today that are found around campus are trees, right? Everyone knows, hopefully everyone knows what a tree is, right? Big plant, a big plant, right? It's basically the basic part of a tree. So we're going to look at trees today, and the trees that we're going to look at are in two of the groups that I talked about that are in the plant kingdom. So they're going to be in your Gymnosperms, which I'll talk about in a second. And the trees that we're going to look today, the trees that we're going to look at today that are in the Gymnosperms are going to be examples of conifers. conifers. We'll talk about it. And then the other plants that we're going to look at today, the other trees, I should say, are going to be examples of angiosperms, which are examples of flowering plants. As I mentioned before, the majority of plants on Earth that we know of are actually flowering plants. But example, gymnosperms, right, with the conifers, they're an example of plants that I mentioned before that don't make flowers, which some people are like, what? I thought plants all made flowers, but no. Okay. So again, you see these scary words. I keep throwing these scary words at you, right? Gymnosperm, angiosperm, that's it. I'm done. Nope, thank you. But no, they're not that scary. So let's pull them apart to make them a little more digestible. So gymnosperms, it comes from the Greek gymnos, all right? Gymnos means naked. The reason why that is because back in Greek times, like ancient Greek times, when people would go to the gym, they would exercise naked. So that's part of the root word is like gymnos means naked. So if you think of like ancient Greeks exercising naked in the gym, maybe that helps you, maybe it doesn't, but that's where gymnos comes from, naked. And then sperma comes from seed. So the word gymnosperms means naked seed. And as I mentioned, these are plants that don't produce flowers and they don't produce fruits. They have just naked seeds. All right. We'll learn more about that when we cover gymnosperms later, but I'm just giving you that for now to get you started. Then you have angiosperms, which come from the Greek angion, which means a container, because they used to have like these vases that were called angion things, and they look like a container. And then sperma, again, is still seed. So angiosperms means a seed in a container. And in the case of plants, that container is a flower and later a fruit. So gymnosperm, naked seed. Angiosperm, seed in a container. And the container is a flower. Okay. Here is our first plant. So which one is the, oh no, sorry, this is not our first one. This is to get you going. So remember here, let's go back. I can go back really quick, right? Oops, nope. Right. So first we're going to talk about the gymnosperms that are around campus, right? Naked seed, gymnosperm, naked seed, no flowers, no fruits. And as I said, when we looked at the taxonomy, when I looked at the plant kingdom tree, as it were, we're going to look at conifers. And so conifers are in the phylum Pinophyta. So just so you don't get scared, here, let's go back, right? What is phylum, right? Phylum is this thing here, right? So the plant kingdom, and then you have phylum underneath that. So in the phylum Pinophyta is the conifers, Every phylum name will have phyta at the end of it, right? So this is Pinophyta. Here, let me just underline the phyta. Phyta means plants, and pino refers to pine trees because, believe it or not, pine trees are a type of conifer. Conifer means a plant that bears a cone. Oh yeah, I say that here because I like being thorough. Right. Conifers are plant-bearing trees, right? So they have cones. So if you've ever seen a pine cone, right? Maybe most people are familiar with pine cone. Pine cone comes from a pine tree. And a pine tree is a type of conifer, and that's a type of gymnosperm. Okay. But today I don't necessarily want you to focus too much on the where things are, because we will go into that a lot toward the end of the semester, but I want you to focus more on how do we tell these different plants apart that we're going to look at now. Oh, also I should mention I'm on the first floor of the Brooklyn apartment that I live in, so if you hear noise, it's because of the door and I have no control over it. Okay, so here's the first plant we're going to look at. This is an Atlas cedar, right? That's the common name, Atlas cedar or Cedrus Atlantica. This is a very common plant in New Jersey and New York. People like to plant this plant on their property because it is a very, very nice landscaping tree. It has, so this is what it looks like when it's really, really old on the top left. Here, I should annotate, and I'm going to change colors. I'm like tired of blue. Let's use pink. A lot of the Atlas cedars can have this kind of like blue color. Like, so if you see down here, the leaves are kind of like, they maybe don't look like it on your screen, but they're kind of like bluish in color. And if you look at your, here, I'm going to pull it up here really quick. So I have it. Oh, maybe I can I pull it up here? No, I don't think I can. It's on Blackboard. So like in your lab handout, which is available on Blackboard, they actually give kind of like an overview of all of these plants that I'm about to show you. I don't go through every single plant in the lab here. And if I don't go through the plant, you don't have to worry about it at all. I go through just a subset of them. But let me just pull up so I can refer to it. And it's available to you guys on Blackboard, but let me just pull it up. Yeah. On my other computer, I have like, it's the only way I was able to do this is by borrowing computers for this part of virtual life. Okay. So like in the first lab, in the lab manual that's on Blackboard, it goes through each of these species. So for Atlas cedar, it tells you where they're from. But some of the things I want to point out today are, so this is a pine. This is an example of something that's a conifer, right? And it has these kind of needle-like leaves. And in the course of, in the case of the Atlas cedar, the needle-like leaves are grouped together in what we call a fascicle. So here is an example of a fascicle. It's, here, I'll write it. I see a chat box. Just give me 1 second and it's what I just circled. I just want to make sure I spell it right. Yeah. What I just circled is called a fascicle. A fascicle is a group of needles on a conifer. And in the case of Atlas cedar, their needles are grouped in a fascicle. So I have a question here. Does the bluish color change as they age, or is it consistent throughout its lifespan? Good question. So there's different varieties of Atlas cedar that are available for sale, and some of those varieties have a more bluish color naturally, even when they're very young. Those are actually the more prized Atlas cedars, as people tend to like the ones that are more bluish for whatever reason. But I think the green ones and bluish ones are both awesome. But I guess it depends on what you're going for on your landscape. Yes. So on the top left here is a mature plant. On the bottom left, we have examples of the needles, and they are grouped in, as I wrote, a fascicle, right? Another thing I should mention, and maybe I should try to, here, I'm going to see if I can, sorry, bear with me 1 second. Can I get out of this? Here, hold on. Oh, I have to get out of annotate first. That's the first step. And then I got it out of this. Yes. Here. I think I should be able to pull this up. Yeah. All right. Give me 1 second. Course documents. Here, I'll try to share this. Share
That's all I get.
web browser.
Just cook the whole fish.
So can you guys, oops, I don't know if that worked. Nope, that's not what I want.
That's what I be.
So can you guys see the Blackboard page right now? Hold on. I don't know. I think I messed it up. Can you guys, hold on. All right, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna stop sharing that. Stop sharing that. And I'm gonna share instead my content, and I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Can you guys see the Blackboard page right now? Yes, great. So
Yes.
when you first go onto the Blackboard page, this is what you'll see. And if you go to the left here, you see it says course documents. That's where you're going to be able to access the lab manual, the lecture slides that I post, the lecture recordings after the class is done, and then eventually different videos of YouTube videos of stuff that I find that might be helpful. So what I'm going to do right now is just show you. I'm going to pull up the lab manual. Oops. You would click on it, and then it says labs 1 and 2. You'd click on that. How are we doing on time? All right, it's been 1 hour. Feels like a lot longer, but don't worry. We'll never go like, it's never going to be 3 hours. If anything, I think 1.5 hours-ish will probably be the max of like how long we spend on any given thing. Okay, hey. So why didn't it? There we go. Okay, great. So this is what the lab manual looks like. And this is, right now we're going through this campus trees thing, right? So it talks about what I said, like the gymnosperms are plants with naked seeds that don't produce flowers and fruits. And then right under it, right? Cedrus Atlantica, right? Atlas cedar, right? Atlas cedar. And as you see here, I was saying that the short needle-like leaves are in a group that's called a fascicle, right? Which just means a cluster. The leaves are also what's called evergreen, which means they never ever they never shed their leaves, like they stay green year round. And then this is the part, this is why I pulled this up to begin with, is I wanted to show you this word. So it says here, Atlas cedars are monoecious, right? And this was a word that was from my objective slide. Monoecious, right? Monoecious, it comes, do I have a slide for this? Let me see if I have a slide for this. I thought I did. That's my bad. I should have done that. So monoecious means that the sexes are in one house. Let me just see. I want to see if I have that in my, I guess I forgot to do that. The sexes are in one house. What does that mean, the sexes are in one house? So plants have sex organs, male and female sexual structures in order to produce the next generation of a plant. And when you're a plant that is monoecious, it means that, so mono means one, andecious refers to a house. So the word monoecious means one house, which means that in this case, the house is the plant. So one plant has both male and female sexual structures on the same plant. So monoecious means one house. The way I like to think about it is like if you have a couple that consists of a male and female person with male and female sex structures, if they're getting along together, they're living in the same house, right? So they're in one house. If they're not getting along together, they're living in 2 different houses. But in this case, the house is a plant. And in this case, the plant is the Atlas cedar. So let's see if I could do, I don't know if I can do this. Let's see if I can. Oh my God. No. Okay, yeah. Just gotta move these guys over way. Sorry, if there's a, let me close this and let me make this go away here. Great. And I lost the chat box. Okay, I got it. Cool. All right, cool. Let's see if I can do this. I don't know if I can, but let's try. So here is our Atlas cedar slide, and here is our this. Let me make this smaller to go to the side so we can see both at the same time. But in the future, you guys should try to have the lab slide, the manual available to you, whether either digital or printed out if that's available to you. So let's look at our Atlas cedar, right? So I said it's monoecious, right? It has male and female sex structures in the same plant. And on the top right here, just so you know, this is the male sex structure. It's what's called a It's what's called a strobilus. And we'll see these words like monoecious. Oops. We'll see the words monoecious, strobilus many, many times. Fascicle many, many times. I'm just getting you into them now. But basically that male structure is called a strobilus and it has pollen. And then because this is a conifer, the female structures are cones. Okay? So Atlas cedar, how do you tell it from other plants? It has cones that are female. It has a strobilus that are male, that are on the same plant because it's a monoecious plant species. They are evergreen trees, and sometimes they have a bluish kind of tinge to them. Okay? So now, does the Atlas cedar reproduce independently, or does it need assistance or interactions with other organisms? Great question. So most of the conifers are actually, the pollen moves to the female sex structures via wind. So these, let me make this big. So you could even almost see the pollen. Let me go yellow so I could draw pollen. So like on this male sex structure, there's like these, oh my God, here, annotate. There's like these little tiny yellow dots like kind of all over it, and those are the pollen grains. And so in the conifers, because they don't have any flowers, they just have these strobilus, the pollen grains will like woo, float, woo, via wind, woo. I also like making noises, FYI. Woo, right? All the way float via wind to fertilize the female structures. We'll talk more about that another time, but good question. Okay, yeah. So Atlas cedar, it's a tree, it's a conifer, it's evergreen, blue kind of needles that are grouped in groups called fascicles, male and female structures on the same plant, monoecious. Next is juniper. So this is an example of where we're not going to talk about a single species. We're only going to talk about all the plants in that species, or we're just going to talk about the genus. Remember? So like Homo sapiens is our species name, but we're in the genus Homo, right? That first part of that species name is always the genus. So we're going to talk about junipers as a group, right? All of the species in the genus Juniperus. All right, so if we look back to I like this 1-2ing thing. It's kind of working out okay. If we look back to our lab manual, right, it says junipers are native to Europe, Asia, and North America. The trees have a horizontal or vertical growth habit. Habit means form. So you can see in the slide here, on the top left is that kind of horizontal form. And then on the bottom left is that like kind of vertical form. And then it talks about the leaves as being all-like, and then scale-like, which I'll show you on the slide. And then these are also a monoecious species. So these are also conifers. Here, let's make it big. Right, so here is let's change colors to purple. So here's an example of that horizontal habit, right? Form, horizontal form kind of grows horizontally. Here's an example of your vertical form of a juniper. Here is an example of the all, so I'll write it here in the chat box. All-like leaves. All is a tool that's used if you've ever like cobbled shoes, right? Like if you've ever repaired shoes, you may have used an awl. An awl is like a metal pokey, basically. And so they said that these leaves look like an awl. Nobody uses an awl anymore. It's like one day it's going to be like, oh yeah, it looks like a phone cord, right? Like a rotary phone cord. And people are going to be like, what's that? It's kind of like how awl is now. But that's an example of the awl-like leaves. And then this shows an example of the scale-like. I'll write it. Scale-like leaves. Because it kind of looks like a lizard's scales, right? Or snake's scales. This plant is also monoecious, right? So Monoecious, again, means that it has male and female sex structures on the same plant. I don't have a picture of the male structures in this slide, and that's okay. You don't need to know what they look like. But what I do have is a picture of the female structures. And in the case of the junipers, even though it's a conifer, their cones don't really look like cones that we're used to. They actually look kind of like a berry. But believe it or not, they're still considered kind of a fleshy cone. And they're bird dispersed. That's what this is showing. So birds eat these berries and then poop them out, and then that allows junipers to grow other places. Fun fact, if you've ever drank gin, these berries are actually used to make gin. So we have the liquor gin because of these berries. This is, well, they're not berries, they're cones, but this is how we make gin, is we use these juniper berries, but they're really fleshy cones. And if you ever smell a juniper, like if you come into contact in one in real life, you kind of like dig in there and smell it. Be careful because all like leaves are pretty spiky. It smells kind of like that gin. So if you ever smelled gin, it kind of almost smells like what you might say like a pine tree or Christmas. Well, this is why, because it comes from the juniper berries, but they're cones. Okay, so what do we got next? Ooh, this is a good one. This is a really good one. Okay, plus it's got a funny species name. So this tree is called the dawn redwood. That's the common name, dawn redwood. And I'm fine with you guys focusing on just the common names. I always will provide you both the species name and the common name. So you focus on learning the common names, okay? But this is called a dawn redwood, and this tree they actually thought was extinct for a long time. We had fossil evidence of it, but we didn't think it existed anymore. And part of the reason it couldn't be found is because, I'll show you. So based on the fossil record, we knew that it had cones. And most conifers are evergreen, right? Remember, here, I'll write it here. Most conifers are evergreen, which means that the leaves never fall off. And so, well, we saw in the fossil record, well, it has cones, so it must be evergreen. So let's go look for it. And people were going, it's from originally Asia, and China in particular. So people were going out looking for it in wintertime to try to find it. And they could never, ever find it. And they were like, well, it's extinct. But it turns out it is a conifer, right? And it does have these cones. But it turns out that this species is actually deciduous. And I'm going to write it here, deciduous. Deciduous, which means that the leaves fall off every single year. So in our area, we're kind of used to that, right? Fall. Oh, it's fall. It's autumn, but it's fall. And what happens during fall? The leaves fall, right? And so this is an example of a plant where the leaves actually do fall. You can see here in this, so here is dawn redwood in the spring and summer. Here is dawn redwood in the fall. And here is what dawn redwood looks like in the wintertime. And this is why people had such a hard time finding it, because they thought it would be evergreen. And so one day, finally, they found the cones underneath a plant, and they realized, what do you know? It's actually deciduous. We found it. The people really like the cones, and they're very cute. They're about the size of a dime. And some people even fashion jewelry out of like casts of the cones because they think it looks very pretty. This is another example of a tree that is monoecious, right? Here, I'll write the word mon. I don't want to, I'm very good at spelling, but nope, I'm not. Moni. Plus I'm also on the spot. Monoecious. There you go. It's another example of a monoecious plant where it has the male and female sex organs on one plant individual, right? Monoecious, mono, one, house, cious, right? So one house. The cones are obviously the female part. And then this is the strobilus. Each of these things hanging down is a strobilus. So that's the male part that has the pollen grains. Dawn Redwood tree is located right outside of the law school on the Rutgers campus. And you can check it out if you're ever there. You might even find it. There's one right here in my park near my house in Brooklyn. The trunk almost looks like something out of Jurassic Park. Like it totally looks like a plant that was around during times of the dinosaurs. And in fact, it was. So very, very cool plant with a really, really cool history. So Dawn Redwood is the common name. If you want to say the proper name or the species name, it's Metasequoia glyptostroboides. It's one of my favorite words to say. Because when in life do you get to say glyptostroboides? I mean, come on. But Dawn Redwood is fine. Don't worry about that. Metasequoia glyptostroboides or Dawn Redwood. Okay. This is our next plant. This is what do we got? Pinus rigida, or pitch pine. If you live in New Jersey, there's like the pine barrens out in New Jersey, they're mostly made up of pitch pine. How do you tell pitch pine? Well, it does have, so let's see, let's go with what we know so far. It's evergreen. It's a conifer. It has cones, right? It's another example of a tree that is monoecious, so it has male and female sex organs on one plant. But the easiest way to tell the pitch pine out of all the other, because a lot of pine trees look the same, even to me, a plant person, right? Like a lot of pine trees look the same. It's a spiky thing with a cone. The easiest way to tell a pitch pine apart from other pines is the needles are grouped in threes in a fascicle, right? So the pitch pine has 3 needles per fascicle. Hold on. I need a bigger screen. Fascicle. Pitch pine has 3 needles per fascicle. That's the easiest way to tell it apart from other pine trees. No other pines in our region have 3 needles per fascicle. So remember, fascicle just means a group of needles, a cluster or a group of needles. Okay. Moving along, making headway here. We should be done in maybe about 15 or so. This is the next tree we're going to look at. This is the white pine tree, or Pinus strobus. Pinus strobus is one of the tallest pine trees that grows in our area. It's a conifer, right? And the trunks are, one thing that's cool about the trunks is that they're actually super, super, super straight. So actually in colonial times, when the British were here, they would actually mark on the trunks of some of the biggest white pine trees the king's seal. And if anybody messed with that tree, they'd get killed. And part of the reason that they wanted to mark that tree for the king was because they were going to use the trunks for masts on their boats, right? So like here, look, here's a boat, right? And they wanted to use the trunks to put their sails on, right? So a little history there about white pine. White pine is called white pine because on the trunk of the tree and on the cones, sometimes you see this white, I don't know if you could see it here. It's like this white resin. So that's how it gets its name, as a white pine tree. Oops, gosh, annotating. Let's see what the lab manual says. White pine is another example of a evergreen tree. So it's evergreen. And it's also monoecious, right? Another example of a species that has male and female reproductive structures on the same plant. Here, let's change colors again to whatever, red. Sure, why not? This is what the male structures look like. Each of these is a strobilus, etc., bearing pollen. And this is what the female structures look like, right? A cone, because it's a type of a conifer. But the easiest way to tell a pitch pine was that there's 3 needles per fascicle. The easiest way to tell a white pine is that there's 5 needles per fascicle. So white pine has 5 needles per fascicle. Cool. Okay. So that's white pine. Pink, yes. Next is Douglas fir. Douglas fir is also evergreen. Douglas fir is also monoecious. Douglas fir does not have needles grouped in fascicles. On Douglas fir, the needles are what we say born singly or just solitary. So look, here's a needle. Here's a needle. Here's a needle. Here, if you happen to be colorblind, I probably should not be using red on this green. So instead I'll use yellow. Oh, I don't know if that's good either. Let's use black. Here's a needle, here's a needle, here's a needle, here's a needle. So they are not grouped in fascicles. They are what we say born singly or just solitary, right? They're just on their own. They're not grouped in a fascicle. So evergreen. Oh, and this one also has a fun species name. It's Pseudotsuga menzii, right? But Douglas fir is fine. Douglas fir is one of your more common Christmas trees. So if you are Christian and celebrate Christmas, you might have purchased a Christmas tree over the years. And so Douglas fir is actually a very common species used for Christmas trees in that trade. They have a good smell. They're not too pokey. The easiest way to tell a pitch pine was it had 3 needles per fascicle. Easiest way to tell a white pine was it had 5 needles per fascicle. Easiest way to tell a Douglas fir is that in addition to the needles being born singly or solitary, this cone, right? This cone has some funky stuff going on. Let's see. I guess I'll use pink. So you might see, if you look at this cone, there's like these weird thingies. They almost look like, what is those little feathery type of thingies coming out of them? And these are actually leaves. So they're brown in this picture because the cone is mature. But Douglas fir is one of the few cones that actually still has leaves visible. If you look at your lab manual, it actually talks about that. Anything else I want you to know about Douglas fir? No. And we call these leaves bracts. I will write it here in case you don't have the lab manual. Bracts. So Douglas fir cones have bracts, needles born singly. This is how you might, born singly. This is how you might take notes, right? Like, okay, what'd you say, all this stuff, but you know, it's evergreen, cones have bracts, aka leaves. All right, next. Oh, this is you. Oh, sorry, not you, you. No, this is you. It's you. This is you. You. Before I talk about you, thank you. Before I talk about, it's not you, it's you. I saw a question here. What exactly is a bract? A bract is a leaf. Bract is a leaf. Bract is a leaf, and in the case of the Douglas fir, so a bract is what we call a leaf when it shows up in a place we're not expecting a leaf to show up. So like, if it shows up where a leaf's supposed to show up, you're like, that's a leaf. But if there's some weird thing that happens to be a leaf, but it's showing up in a place you're not expecting it to show up, we call it a bract. So again, in this Douglas fir example, these weird doodads, I don't know if you could see the pink, hanging down, are actually all leaves. But because they're coming out of this cone and not off of where we're used to seeing leaves, we call them a bract. We'll come across bracts again later on in the semester too. Yeah, I always do the "it's not you, it's you" joke. Even in person, it always gets a nice hit. When I learned this stuff, the professor did that. I thought it was a riot. Anyways, yes. So this is taxus or you, right? It's not you, it's you. And yew is also a conifer. So let me go to Texas. This is another example of a plant where we're not talking about a specific species, right? We're going to talk about all of the species in the genus. All of the species in the genus Taxus. Now maybe it makes more sense as to why I was going through all of those things at the beginning. So we're going to talk about all the species in the genus Taxus. So, or yew. And so if you're yew, right? If you're yew, you are evergreen. You have needles that are not in a fascicle. They are borne singly, right? Or solitary, as you can see in the bottom left picture. Yew is a very common landscape plant. It's often planted as like a hedge. People usually trim the heck out of it to make it be into these like perfect hedges. But if you didn't trim it, it would be kind of like a more tree-like looking girl. So yew is the first plant we're going to come across that is not monoecious. Not monoecious. Yew is dioecious. I normally can spell, but I'm like nervous because I'm actually like typing it for you guys. Dioecious. 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 Yew is dioecious. Monoecious means both sex organs on one house, right? One plant. Dioecious means what? What do you think it could mean? If monoecious means you have sex organs on mono or one plant, boom, double. Yes, sexes in two houses, double. Yes. So now you have to have two plant individuals. One plant individual has the female sex structures. One plant individual has the male sex structures, and that's what we call dioecious, right? Di is two,ecious is house. They have their sex structures in two houses. So in that example I gave before, they're not getting along, right? They got to live in two separate plants. And yes, so they have male trees that bear male sex structures, and they have female trees or trees that bear female sex structures. So on the bottom here, let's get out of pink. Pink's just not working for me right now. I wish I had more colors. My palette here is pretty lame. I guess we'll use yellow. Yellow might show up nice here. So here on the bottom is a male tree. It's a tree bearing male structures, male sex structures, right? And these again each of these is a strobilus. Same word we saw before. So this is a close-up of them. Here's them on the tree. And on the top here, this is the female sex structures. This is similar to another plant we already saw where the cones don't really look like the cones we're used to seeing. The cones are actually fleshy again. In this case, we call these cones an aril. If you've grown up in the New Jersey or New York or even Pennsylvania region, you may have seen these growing up as a kid and been like, whoa, look at those. Like, should we eat them? Probably not. A lot of times students say, I know that I saw these when I was growing up and thought they were like maybe something to eat, but I don't eat them. So this is an example of a plant where it is a conifer, but the cones or the female structures are not berries. No, they are fleshy cones called arils. They are fleshy cones called arils. So we saw another plant today that has fleshy cones instead of a hard cone. Can you remember? Does anyone remember what we saw already that had a fleshy cone? I'll give you a hint. Birds eat it. Yes, juniper, right? So this is another one like that. Juniper and not you, but you has fleshy cones. And again, these are also bird dispersed. So birds eat these fleshy cones or arils and poop the seed out, and new yews to make a new yew. It's an all new yew. I'm sorry, I can't. Gotta take them where I get them, guys. All right, let's go. All right, so those are all of the conifers we're going to cover. All the ones in the gymnosperms we're going to cover. And let's see. It's been an hour and a half. Let's see how many we got. I don't think it's that many. 1, 2, 3. Okay. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. But now we already know some terms, so that'll make it a little easier. So now we're going to look at some angiosperms that you can find around campus. And remember, right? Gymnosperms, gymnos, right? Gymnos equals naked, right? Sperma equals seed. So we already looked at the naked seeds or the gymnosperms that you can find around campus. Now we're going to look at the angiosperms. Angion equals container, right? Sperma, again, means seed. So angiosperms are seeds, plants that have seeds in a container. And in the case of plants, the container is a flower. It's a flower. Okay. So this is the first one we're going to look at. This is the Norway Maple. Norway Maples are actually, or Acer plantanoides. Norway Maples are actually pretty invasive. That's a term we already talked about today. So like there are areas in the Bronx and even Queens where like Norway Maple is just like going to town, just taking up all the space and no other plants can grow. But it's still a pretty plant and something we can talk about. How do you tell this apart from others? So this is another, oh, and the map on the bottom here is showing you where it's considered invasive in the US, in the lower, or I guess Alaska. Whoa, did they like stick a lot? Oh no, it's up there. Yeah, so this is where it's showing where it's considered invasive in the USA and parts of Canada. This is a plant that is dioecious, so you can have male and female flowers. So this is the male flower. This is the female flower. And remember, dioecious, 2 houses. You need 2 separate plants in order to have reproduction, right? 2 houses. And the way to tell them apart, they have this leaf, looks like a maple leaf, but they're really, really big. They're like this big. They have a really, really long stem. And the seeds are what are called a samara. This is all in your lab manual, but I'll write it. Samara. If you've ever, as a kid, played with seeds that are like a helicopter, some people call them like helicopter. You like drop it and it's like, woo, right? Like whirly down. That's your samara. You can see them here on the bottom. Okay, so that's Norway maple. Oh, and they do turn bright yellow in fall, right? Because the majority of angiosperms are deciduous. The majority of angiosperms are deciduous. Their leaves fall off every year, unlike the gymnosperms that tend to be evergreen. Okay. No more Norway maple. Now we're going to do Japanese maple. Japanese maple has very beautiful leaves. They can be many different colors depending on the species. Very, very common landscape plant. You probably have seen them around different areas where people really put a lot of time into their landscaping. The leaves kind of look like marijuana leaves, depending on the species you're looking at. So like on the bottom left here, these are different examples of leaves from different varieties of Japanese maple or Acer palmatum. The reason that it's called Acer palmatum is that the leaf looks like a palm. So if you look at my hand, right, this is like a palm shape, right? Sorry, I got attacked. If you're seeing all these like Band-Aids and stuff, I got attacked by my neighbor's cat yesterday when I was trying to help. So lesson learned, don't help. No, help, definitely help. But the cat got escaped, and they were like, "Can you scoop it up?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And I scooped it up, and then it was like, it was just like, ah! So yeah, that was fun. So if you're seeing all these things, I wasn't like in a car crash or something. It's just like cat attack. Anyways, yeah. So palm shape, right? Palmatum. So that's why we have the name Acer palmatum. You might notice. Here, let's go back. You might notice, whoa, Acer, look, Norway maple, Acer, right? And then Japanese maple, Acer. So yeah, really, battle scars is right. I hope I don't really get scars. But so the word Acer, the genus Acer, is the same for all the maples because the genus Acer refers to the maples. So if you're a maple tree, your first part of your species name, your genus part, will always be Acer, right? So we can see that here. Japanese maple, Acer palmatum. Norway maple, Acer platanoides. So Acer, Acer, both maples. These also have samaras, right? That helicopter that I was showing you before. Here's one helicopter right there. Samara. And they're monoecious. So these you could see here. Both sex organs are located on the same tree. In this case, they're in separate flowers, but they're both on the same tree. Here's a female flower. Here's a male flower, and they're on the same tree. So it's a monoecious species. Okay, next. This right now is in flower. So if you're driving around and you see a beautiful tree that's like all white or sometimes pink, really beautiful pink. This is in flower right now. So definitely take advantage. If you see one of these plants, try to go look at it close up. This is the flowering dogwood or Cornus florida. These tend not to get too tall. They tend to kind of be only around like 10 feet tall or so. It is, like most angiosperms, deciduous, so it loses its leaves every year. Just looking at it doesn't say whether it's monoecious or dioecious. I think it's monoecious. I'm pretty sure it's monoecious. Doesn't say though, don't worry about it. This is another example though of bracts. So if you were walking around, right, walking your dog or on a date, hanging out, walking around. Yes, it is. It's deciduous. It does lose its leaves every year. And you saw this, though. If you were walking around, you saw this, right? Are you walking around, you saw this? You'd say, that's a flower, right? That's a flower, right? Look at this pretty flower. And in actuality, this part is the flower. Only the middle part is a flower. In the case of flowering dogwoods, the things that are surrounding the flower are once again bracts. They look different than the other leaves, right? In this case, they're white or pink. But this is actually leaves, not petals, surrounding the flowers. And this tree has evolved this so that those showy leaves or showy bracts make pollinators want to come there. And so it's evolved over time to have these really showy leaves or bracts. But the little ball thing is actually the flower. We will learn more about leaf arrangement in subsequent classes, but just so you know, another way you can tell if something is a flowering dogwood is it has leaves opposite from one another. So there's different ways that leaves are arranged. We'll talk about that during the leaf lecture or leaf lab, but sometimes leaves are like this, one leaf, opposite each other, and we call that opposite. Sometimes they're like this, and sometimes there are other ways. But if they're like this, we call that opposite. And the dogwood makes actual berries, not fleshy cones in this case. We're in the angiosperms now. It makes fleshy berries. Okay. Next. This is sweet gum. It's also deciduous. It turns this very beautiful yellow, golden yellow, and then kind of reddish during fall. Sweet gum or liquid ambar styraciflua. Sweet gum is fine. Just stick with sweet gum. Is very common. It is monoecious, right? Both sexes in one house. The easiest way to tell it apart from other plants is it has a star-shaped leaf. Looks just like a star, 5-pointed star. And the other way to tell it apart from other plants is the seeds look like this. They almost look like a cone. They almost look like a cone because they're hard and brown. But they're not. They are what's called a capsule because we're not in conifers anymore. We're in angiosperms. These seeds are called a capsule. So they have these hard capsules. So sweet gum monoecious. You can see the male and female flowers there. Star-shaped leaf capsule. Okay, next. Now we're going to go through a couple oaks, and we're almost done there, kids. Hang on. I know. What did I sign up for? This is horrible. No, we're almost done. So here, this is a white oak. Oak trees have acorns. Oak trees have acorns. All oak trees. If you're an oak tree, you have an acorn. That goes without saying. White oak is, here, let's get out of this. All of the oaks that we're going to cover are monoecious, so they have both male and female flowers on the same plant. Or sorry, yeah, male and female sex structures, in this case flowers on the same plant. Let's change colors. I'm tired of this. Here's what the female flowers look like in case you're interested. Here's what the male flowers look like in case you're interested. Doesn't really matter. The point is that they're both on the same plant. Here are what the acorns look like on white oak. White oak is called white oak because it has white-gray bark. That's why it's called white oak. Another reason it's called white oak is because the bottom side of the leaf is kind of pale white. Oaks, there's a lot of different oaks. We only cover two. There's a lot of different oaks. Oaks all have this same kind of leaf shape where it's very lobed. But the way you can tell a white oak is that the lobes are round. See how it's kind of like, ooh, look, I'm getting better. Whoa, holy, wow. Okay, yeah, kind of round lobes. As opposed to, and these are deciduous, right? As opposed to another quercus, right? Quercus is oak. Quercus coccinea or scarlet oak. Similar leaf shape, except they are pokey. See how pokey? See how pokey at the tips? So let's go back so you can compare. Here's the red oak, or sorry, here's a scarlet oak, very pokey. Here's the white oak, very round lobes, round and smooth lobes. Scarlet oak, little pokies, right? Cool. Scarlet oak, because it's an oak, right? Quercus also has acorns. There they are down there. Much smaller acorns than white oak. And in the fall, because it's deciduous as well, it turns into this beautiful scarlet red color, which you see at the bottom. Okay. I think we're almost there. We got 3 more plants and then we are done. 3 more plants and then we are done. So here we are. This is American holly. This is an example of a angiosperm that is evergreen. So remember when we talked about the conifers, right, and the gymnosperms, the dawn redwood, even though it was a conifer, would shed its leaves every year, right? It was deciduous, which is weird because normally if you're a conifer, you're usually evergreen. And normally if you're an angiosperm, you're usually deciduous. But in the case of American holly or Ilex opaca, this is actually an evergreen species. So it will keep its leaves on year round. It makes these little berries. And it's another example of dioecious. So there's 2 plant individuals. One has female flowers, one has male flowers. It's an example of male flowers. It's an example of female flowers. That would be on 2 separate plants. Okay. Honey locust, which right now looks a lot, is just starting to really leaf out and brand new leaves. This is an example of a plant that if you want to plant a plant on your property and you have pollen allergies, don't plant this plant. It makes just a rain in spring, a rain of pollen, and it like coats everything. Also oaks too, just coat everything with pollen. So avoid those if you have pollen allergy on your property. What do I want you to know about honey locust? It's deciduous. It has a seed that looks like this on the bottom. It's actually in the bean family, the legume, which is the pea family. legume. So I don't know, can you hear the hello ice cream truck outside? Probably. Sorry, windows closed. I live on the ground floor. Oh gosh, what was I always think of those charming tamarins. Yeah, I could see that. They have a very similar shape to that plant for sure. So honey locust. One thing you should notice, we'll talk about this more during the leaf class, is that, so this is one single leaf of a honey locust tree. It has what we call a compound leaf. So for example, if you look at all the other plants we've looked at so far, have what are called a simple leaf, one leaf. Or all the angiosperms we've looked at so far have that. But then if you get to the honey locust, they have a compound leaf where this is one single leaf. We'll learn more about that in the leaf lab. This is one leaf. I have some questions here. I think that's right about legume being the French word for vegetable. Was the American holly monoecious? No, it's dioecious. Here. Yep, American holly, oops, is dioecious. And so most of the time in these slides, just so you know, if the plant is dioecious, I show 2 flowers, right? So for example, on this slide, I show 2 flowers and 2 separate panels. This is a dioecious tree. Here, I only show, oh, maybe I should take that back. Never mind. Don't listen to me. Sorry, take that back. It's dioecious. The holly has male and female plants. The reason why that might be important is, like, if you're growing a holly tree on your property and you want it to have berries each year, you better plant a female plant, because if you don't, you'll have the holly but no berries. And that happens. Oh, holly berry. See, different thing, different person. But still, holly berry. Yeah, if you want holly berries on your tree, better plant a female plant. I think it's a new one for me. Holly berry, never had that one. I love you guys. Thank you for encouraging me and hanging in there. All right, enough about honey locust. This is the last plant. I swear to gosh, last plant. This one is easy because it's called the purple leaf plum. And it has purple leaves. I mean, don't get more easier than that, right? It has purple leaves, purple leaf plum. Purple leaf plum is a super common street tree. You've probably seen it in your area. It stays purple year round, but it does lose its leaves in the wintertime, right? But when the leaves leaf out in the spring, they leaf out purple and they stay purple the whole season. They are monoecious. They have, remember, both sex organs on one plant. They have pretty flowers in the spring. They make these little tiny plums. Purple leaf plum, right? Purple leaves. Pretty easy there. Okay. Whew. Wow. With the intro and everything, this took way longer than I was expecting. Subsequent labs won't take as long, I'm hoping, because we've gone over the syllabus and stuff. When we end here, I'm going to start to process the video. Video won't be processed for a while because it takes time for that to happen. I don't know if you've ever posted to YouTube, but it takes it a sec. However, I'll make sure the lecture slides are available as soon as I log off here. They should be starting at 8, but I'll open them up earlier. There's a homework assignment on this lecture, or on this lab lecture, whatever we're calling this virtual thing, talking about some of the stuff we've covered, right? The importance of plants, why they're important, and then how to tell certain of these plants apart. It'll be a multiple choice assignment that's on Blackboard. It will be open as soon as I get done here. It's supposed to be open starting at 8 p.m. So I'm just going to leave it like that. So it'll be open starting at 8 p.m. It will be due by Thursday at 6 p.m. You can attempt it anytime. If you're not totally over this already and you want to get it out of the way tonight, fine. If you want to do it tomorrow anytime, fine. If you want to do it Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon, fine. It's open now, whenever you have time to do it. If you have notes, it should only take you about 15 minutes, but it's open for an hour once you click open it. There are not multiple attempts. There's a single attempt. This is in when we would have the class in person, what this would be like is I would post the assignment on Blackboard or hand out the assignment in class, and then at the next class you guys would have turned it in to me like in person, like here's my assignment. But instead we're doing it like this because of time and whatnot in the virtual thing. It's not multiple attempts, it's only one attempt, but like I said, so what I would recommend is go through the Blackboard slides again. I'll make sure the Blackboard slides are available. Go through them, look at your notes, get a little organized and whatnot. And then when it's a good time for you to sit and do the assignment between now and Thursday at 6, open the assignment, have the lecture slides there, have your notes there, have all that material there, and then work through the assignment. Like I said, if you're very well prepared, it should only take you about 15 minutes, but it's going to be open for a whole hour. And with the notes and the lecture slides, you shouldn't have any problems. The first one will give you a feel of like what it's going to be like. And we're going to have a total of 10. All right. So, thank you guys so much. I'm going to post this recording on Blackboard. I appreciate you so much for joining me here today. I will have... Thank you guys. Thursday's class will also be live. There will be some, all right, I have to, hold on. There will be some classes that will be pre-recorded, just an FYI. Some of them will be live, like so this Thursday will be live. I prefer having live ones, but then there will be sometimes we'll have a pre-recorded lecture available for you to watch. So keep that in mind too. If anybody has any questions, you feel free to email me at any time. I think you guys have your first lecture tomorrow if you're enrolled in that class. So good luck with that. Rajan is awesome. He's a great guy. But thank you. And I will see you on Thursday. Good luck on the assignment. Email me if you need to. Okay. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.